a series victory for the number 8th ranked team against the number 3 ranked team in England. How does it feel for you?
It's a pleasing feeling, man. Obviously, to know where we've come from as a side, we've had some very difficult series. We've had some very difficult times as a unit, and to see the way the guys have really performed, especially after the end of last year. We obviously lost to India, and then we went to Bangladesh, lost to Bangladesh. And to start the year like we've done, is exceptional. Just the character within the dressing room, the hunger within the dressing room, to me is the most pleasing feeling. To see most of the guys hungry for one another's success and happy for one another. When they do well, it's just exceptional. And to see us to defeat England and be 2-0 up in this series with 1 game left to go, is just extremely pleasing.
Welcome to another episode of Change of Pace Live, the podcast. Ideally, you're watching this the day of the first test match between England and the West Indies. Test cricket is finally back, and to kick off things, we've got a very special episode discussing how the West Indies might fare in England. With me, we've got Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, who runs Caribbean Cricket as a co-founder there, and also works with the BBC radio channels with football and does a lot of football writing as well. Thank you for being on the show. With me, I've got Ahmed Hassan and AZ Khwaja as usual. What I really like about today's conversation, Machel, is that there's a lot of synergy between Pakistan and the West Indies in terms of their downward test trajectory, but also what the two teams are known for, typically fast bowling. But of late, the two superstars in both sides are actually batsmen, Babar Azam and Shai. And that's where I want to start the conversation today, because both of them are at the cusp of greatness. They might not be, greatest of all time there, but when you look at Pakistan after the likes of Yunus and Yusuf, and when you look at the West Indies after the likes of Brian Lara and Shivnarine Chanderbal, we finally have Shai and Babar Azam. Tell me your thoughts on what it's like to look at Shai. What do you feel about him, and where do you see him taking the West Indies?
So, first things first, thank you for having me on today. Love it. Love what you guys do, and really appreciate connecting with you. Running through what's going to be happening in the cricket. But yeah, Shai. Do you know what? I'm conflicted with Shai because if you look through the West Indies top order, there is no doubt, and I think you'd find it very hard pressed to find any West Indian who would say that he is not the classiest batsman in the side. Like if we talk about the classical batsman that when we look at a batsman and go, yes, look at that shot. And we're not talking about aggressive style. We're talking about just natural cricket play. That's Shai. In ODIs, he was named in last year's ODI Team of the Year. He's basically he's the best ODI player in the West Indies. He was averaging over 50 in ODI cricket last year. See, as close to a banker as you could get on, he's going to make at least a 50 when he plays an ODI innings. The issue we've got is that he's yet to convert that on that consistent level into test match cricket. And that's the only concern that we've got. Like, we've persisted with him in test match cricket on the back of what he's done in ODI cricket. Yet, if you watch him in ODI cricket, his innings aren't going at like 100 plus. He's anchoring the innings all the way through and batting at like 75, 80. And banking on him not getting out, which allows all the rest to blast off whilst he's going to be there at the end. Now, given that he can play an ODI innings at 70 or 80, we cannot understand why he's unable to, why he's unable to also mirror that in Test cricket. Because it's not like he needs to change. Yeah. He doesn't need to decelerate to then go into Test cricket. He could technically play the same innings. Exactly, same way, same innings. Now, there are a few technical flaws which we think are holding him back, and types of bowlers and when he would face them in ODI cricket versus the scrutiny you're going to come under in Test cricket, and the fact that the West Indies batting lineup is so brittle that he comes in basically as an opener anyway.
Let me ask you this, Ahmed. I'm going to go to you. what Machel has just said right now. A year and a half ago, wasn't this the same conversation we were having about Babar Azam?
Yeah, I feel like it's still
Almost
the
the
same.
exact same problem.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about how Babar was going and pacing his innings in ODIs at a similar rate of 75 to 80 and anchoring the innings. He gets to his 100, but then he doesn't, continue on from there because we've seen players of late taking these hundreds and turning them into big 150s and 160s and 70s as well. So we want that from Babar in ODI cricket. But then we were talking about how that's not converting into Test cricket, how that mindset's not really adapting into the longer format, whereas it should suit him better because he has so much time. He can pick and choose the balls that he wants to play. He has spinners that he can face off against. He has weaker fast bowlers. There's changes, so many different things that work in his favor, but they just weren't. And then suddenly we were talking about this. It changed after that Australia series.
Yeah,
we started seeing, a different mindset with Babar Azam because he didn't just go for that defensive approach. He was choiceful with his shots and everything. But he started attacking the bowlers. He started going for his drives and his pulls and his cuts, and that worked better for him. Take that into the home series, and he suddenly, like I posted a picture once, he was averaging 400 in Pakistan over the 3 matches that he played there. So something happened, and I think Shai Hope's on the cusp of that too. I mean, not to take anything away from him in Test match cricket, but he has those twin hundreds against England, and those were match-winning hundreds, if I recall correctly. So there's something there, and I hope that he can convert because he's probably one of my favorite players to watch from the West Indies.
Sure.
Jason Holder is probably the only one who I think has a better cover drive than Shai Hope in that lineup. But other than that, Shai Hope's a classy batsman, and I think he's due some runs.
AZ, how much do you attribute Shai Hope's struggle in Test cricket to the lack of security the West Indies batting lineup provides him? Because that was kind of the issue after Yunus and Misbah stepped out. Babar Azam didn't really have the cover that was provided, and Azhar and Asad were kind of falling away from form as well.
I think that definitely makes a difference, and also he keeps, I believe, in ODI, so maybe that's an extra burden that could be relieved in the long term. Let him switch to full-time batting in the ODIs as well, so that could be an effect as well. Machel, I'd like to ask you about Kraig, Brathwaite and Kemar Roach. Kemar Roach, we know he's on the verge of 200 Test wickets. Do you believe these two are underrated by the international community? They're very solid performers at Test level, but they don't get the accolades or the acclaim that they deserve.
So Chemar Roach
and Kraig Brathwaite.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think which one I think is underrated. So Chemar Roach.
You're very harsh. I thought we'd be more sympathetic to your guys, but you're really harsh, bro.
No, I should have warned you beforehand. I am brutally honest when it comes to the West Indies. I think that's a staple of all Caribbean fans.
You're like us, that's fine.
We give tough love. But Chemar Roach, I think he is underrated, actually, because when you talk about, if you go around world cricket and you say, give me your top 5 fast bowlers, I don't think people would mention him. But if you look at his stats pre the car crash, which he had in, I think, 2016-17, and post, he has basically averaged under 28 throughout his whole career, pretty much. West Indies haven't had another bowler come close to 200 wickets since Ambrose and Walsh retired. So let's put that in the context. That's a 20-year period we're looking at where no one else has replicated what we were used to as just being a regular thing for one of the West Indian fast bowlers.
Even though you had good guys like Jerome Taylor, Edwards, Darren Powell, and these blokes, they were decent.
Please don't forget Tino Best. Can we?
Tino Best,
one of my favorite characters.
I'm going to say a good character bowler. Not at the Test level, anyways. But so Kemar, like I say, isn't mentioned when we talk about the top fast bowlers, but his numbers are so consistent. And what I like about Kemar is that the best Test batsmen, bowlers, wicketkeepers, whatever it might be, they all adapt their game through their career. They don't just play the one style for their whole career. And Kemar adapted his approach to the wicket post the car crash. He approaches at a wider angle nowadays. He's devastating, particularly at left-handers. So I do think he's underrated because he's not in the conversation. Kraig Brathwaite, no. I don't think he's underrated. I just don't think at this moment in time, his struggle is he's not rated. But not because he's underrated, just not rated right now.
But his numbers are pretty decent, I would say. He has a fair few hundreds compared to his age.
But given if you have played in an international cricket side, granted one as poor as the West Indies, since he made his debut, I think in 2011-12, that's 8 years service. His average at the moment is, I think, shy under 34, so 33. He's in the midst of a 2-year slump. He was 2 years ago. If we'd had this conversation 2 years ago, his average was 38, and I would have said to you, okay, why are people not talking about?
And I think that was just off the back of that 100 he made.
Exactly
in Sharjah as well.
after he made I think he carried his bat against Pakistan. Then he made the hundreds in that Headingley that Headingley game you're talking about with Shai Hope. He made 100 not out and 94. In that inning as well. And then pretty much from that point onwards, he's been in a slump. So I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm saying that I can't say he's underrated because you have to look at the context.
He's not made that leap to the next
level. He
level.
hasn't. And a lot of them haven't. And I think going back to the point that was made with regards to Pakistan and linking it back to Babar, if you don't have that experience around you, it's harder to... It's harder to make the leap. Like Kraig debuted when Shiv was still playing, Sarwan was still playing, Chris Gale was still playing. Test match cricket we're talking about. When you have that level of experience around you, you can develop your game, knowing that quality can bail you out if you're struggling. But Kraig, in the midst of this young team, if he is struggling, it looks even worse because he's supposed to be the one. He's supposed to be one of the ones who's doing well. Do you see what I mean? So teams like Pakistan and West Indies, and why we have such a kind of similar dichotomy, is that I feel like we've had our periods of time where we lose our experienced players for whatever reason, whether retirement or whatever it might be, and then we expect these youngsters to come in and quickly adapt. And actually, it's hard. I'll give you an example. Last year's World Cup, fast bowler, Shaheen
Afridi.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Right, but when he first played, I said he was rubbish. Oh, God. And I'm not, but do you know
not going to like that? Quad's not going to like that.
I did too.
You have a point. Because in the ODI series with England right before the tournament, he got absolutely smashed.
Yeah, all over the place, yeah. And I was like, why is this guy in the team? He's clearly not ready. But then I look back now and go, this is what we do to young players sometimes. We don't give them that chance to find who they are in the context of international cricket. We sometimes blood them too early, and then we get on their backs when they don't immediately hit the ground running.
That's exactly what happens in Pakistan cricket. That is literally, you're dictating exactly what happens to so many of countless players that have come to the ranks. But Emma, go ahead.
Debuted a 16-year-old in Australia. I mean, of all the places for you to be a young fast bowler coming in and making your debut, you know, you're being thrown in against the likes of Steve Smith and David Warner, and I mean, a guy in Labuschagne who was just, you know, resurgent at that point. So you're absolutely right. You know, we're not giving them the chance to develop. And I actually thought the same thing about Shaheen after that first PSL that he played in. It just, you know, he had that one performance where he picked up a few wickets, but it just didn't seem like he had enough in him. But, you know, he caught all of us by surprise. And right now he's got the numbers to be, you know, one of the best in the world. So absolutely, you got to give them time. And when you don't have the seniors around them, sometimes people do take up that responsibility at a very young age, like Shaheen has, like Babar did in the ODI setup. But a lot of guys, you know, succumb under that pressure and they fold, and they just don't have that ability to, you know, really live up to expectations. They want to just take their time and, you know, slowly get there. But because we talk about potential, because we talk about, you know, what they've done in the domestic circuit or under 19 and this and that.
We project everything 15 years.
Also immediate success.
Exactly. We want it right now.
In the Pakistan setup, I remember before the Champions Trophy, we were going through a series of ODI losses. But otherwise, we don't accept losing too much. If you get a string of losses together, you want to axe the captain, axe the coach, you know, change the chairman of the board. It's top to bottom, you want changes. But speaking of experience and speaking of, you know, we've already talked about Shai Hope and the impact that he has previously had in England, and if he will be able to recreate that this summer. What about the impact of not having Bravo and Hetmeyer in that batting lineup?
You've already said I'm harsh, but get ready for this then. I would be shocked if in the course of this 3-match series, so that's 6 innings West Indies are going to bat, unless we somehow bat once and bowling out twice, doubt it. There's 6 innings that West Indies are going to bat in this series. I expect us to be bowled out for under 200 at least 3 times. And
So basically, you're a fan of bowling. Basically, we believe in bowling.
That's our strength. But so that ties neatly. But you know what? I'll back it up with some figures. In our last 10 Test matches, West Indies have only passed 254 times. Okay, so this isn't me just saying it for the sake of saying it. We can't bat, whether at home or whether away, and that doesn't mean that Shimron Hetmeyer or Darren Bravo are the saviours, but it does mean the side is significantly weaker without them. Now, Hetmeyer, we interviewed on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We interviewed Ram Naresh Sarwan, I think about a couple of months ago, and we asked Ronnie who's like the best players he's played with or seen, and Ronnie said that in the last 15 years, the most talented players he's seen, and he said Chris Gale, Marlon Samuels, and then he said Hetmeyer. And I said, you're putting Hetmeyer in that exalted company. And he said, Hetmeyer has the ability to make the game look so easy. He doesn't even know how talented he is.
Especially, I remember those hundreds in India. He's like slamming Shami for 6 like it's nothing.
You're signing that IPL contract.
Exactly right. And once he Hetmeyer, we've had our top 6 have slumped, generally speaking, in the last 2 years. Hetmeyer's the one who's got the best average out of the top 6, interestingly enough. So I can't say we won't miss him. And players like Hetmeyer have the ability to change the pace of an innings quickly if it's coming off. He's not scoring 100 in 250 balls. He's scoring 100 in 86 balls. So you can't not miss players like that. Darren Bravo's the other side of the spectrum. He has the experience. And granted, he's not done well in England in the past, but even with Bravo missing 2 years of international cricket and coming back,
just
and then
occupying the crease would have helped Hetmeyer.
Exactly. It's about sometimes Test match cricket isn't even about how good you are. It's about your mentality and knowing what you're supposed to do in different phases of play. Knowing that, you know what, Anderson and Broad have got me under the pump here. I just need to survive for the next 15 overs. It's not about scoring any runs. Just let me survive. And that comes with experience. And that's where we'll miss somebody like Darren Bravo, who's been there and done that.
Misbah Huq is a great example of that. It might have been the most gifted batsman out there, but he had a great mind and he had the perseverance to stick around when things were tough at the crease and even in the field as a captain. But we've also got some new names in the West Indies lineup. We've got fast bowling all-rounders. Emma, we were talking about that this morning, about how that might be exciting. What are your thoughts on Chemar Holder?
Is it Chemar? How do we say his name?
Kemar.
Either one's fine. I say Chemar. So so Chemar was in the same team as the West Indies team that won the Under-19 World Cup in 2016. So that team had Hetmeyer was the captain, Kemo Paul was in that team, Alzari Joseph was in that team, and Chemar Holder was in that squad and team as well. So
stacked side.
So he has just come through with that same generation of players, and this is why a few of us are excited, or a lot of us are excited about the next generation that comes, because they've tasted success at their age group level. And sometimes with an under-19 team, one player makes it through or two players make it through to the seat. But this batch of players, 4 or 5 of them have all managed to make the step up to the senior squad. Chemar was the best fast bowler in the domestic competition, just gone first class. So it's his time. And before that, he was the best bowler in West Indies A cricket when they played against India and when they played against England A. So he's done all he can do. There's nothing more he can do to prove that he should be making this next step. So now it's about, well, can he do it at international level? I don't think he'll actually play.
At all.
He might get a game He might
because
get a game in the
Shannon
third
and
test.
O'Shane are in the reserve team. I don't even know why.
So right, let me explain that. So Shannon was in the reserve squad because he's coming off the back of an injury. And when I spoke to Phil Simmons about it, Phil said that if Shannon proves himself in these warm-up games, then he's just added to the main squad, and they've added him now.
Okay.
So because Shannon took wickets, and he's taken some wickets today, actually, in the second warm-up game. So because Shannon's proved his fitness, that puts him above Chemar, obviously. He's the senior bowler.
Yeah.
So Chemar probably will have to bide his time. But in terms of, I don't want to draw the parallel, but it's a good parallel to draw. He has a very kind of similar run-up and action to Jofra Archer, I would say.
Yeah. Which is our next topic, but we'll get to it. We're going to talk about Jofra Archer. I mean, I know
he would have been useful in this side.
You tweeted about, I remember, I think it was the Caribbean podcast Twitter or your Twitter, that you said, everybody just keeps on talking about Jofra Archer, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have to ask him about it. I don't know how he's going to feel.
I have another really cliche question for later.
But Jofra Archer, I mean, as a West Indies fan, is there bad blood? Do you feel that is it okay for him to play for England? Obviously, he's a World Cup winner now, and he's proven himself in the Ashes and the World Cup. He's an all-format player. He's probably one of the best fast bowlers going around right now. But as a West Indian fan, how do you feel about it?
So, when the whole furore was going around, initially, so before he'd even qualified for England or made his debut or whatever, I was probably a bit salty about it. I won't lie. Because I thought he should have been playing for the West Indies and he should have made himself available. I know why he didn't, but then also after getting over that, the reality is he's got a British passport. So this isn't a case where I can't remember which one of his parents is British or has a British passport, but one of them. So this isn't a case where it's like he's born in Barbados and he has no link to the UK, and has no link to the UK whatsoever. He legitimately can play, and if he wants to, represent England. And you know what? When the World Cup came around, I was just happy for him. And one of the reasons I was happy for him as well, and looking at it through a West Indies lens, is that I felt when Jofra made his debut for England, the world was put on his shoulders. Like, he had huge expectation on top of him. If he's
been predestined for the past 4 years, so that pressure.
Exactly, and I just kind of got to the point where I was like, if this guy fails, they are going to crucify him.
Exactly.
So for his own sake, I just wanted him to do well.
Fair enough.
And then when obviously he bowled the super over in the World Cup. Good. I'm glad he was the one that saw it over the finish line. But even now, I still feel like there's greater expectation on him than there are on other players in the team, even though he's already done what he needs to do. Not that
chip on his shoulder for some reason.
It's almost like he has to be superhuman at all times just to be. I'm not saying to be accepted, but just to get the same level of praise that I could be wrong, but that's the sense I get.
This is the other conversation
I think it's because they feel we invested in you, we waited for you, and we bent the rules of the immigration office for you, and all of this stuff. So
but did they? Because he had a passport.
They had to. They did some fancy.
I think they sped up some of the processes, but also because the players. Yeah, some of the players that he was replacing, right? You had a guy in David Willey. He was a staple in that England lineup. Of course, nowhere near good enough compared to him. But, when he's coming in and the statements are coming out like, I don't understand why and this and that, you knew that he always had to prove more than he should have had to in reality, because his talent and his ability speak for itself. But just that even within that Ashes series, after the first game, you see him speeding in at 93, 94 miles per hour, and everyone,
I still remember,
right? And those spells, and everyone's like, oh my God, never seen something this fast, and it's been so long. But then after that, obviously it's his first test series, it's his first couple of test games, he started to slow down, and people started questioning it right away. It's only been 2 matches. You suddenly were praising him for being a superstar and bowling this fast, and
he's just won you the World Cup,
dip, right? And if he has a slight dip, you're suddenly questioning him.
But I do believe Machel has a point. But just see the way they've treated Raheem Sterling and others. athletes of color in the UK. They always have this snide. They take a dig at them. Oh, look, he's so hyped and this and that. So I do believe that is factoring in for Jofra as well.
I think that was the next part of
especially in cricket, the most
Yeah.
Anglo-Saxon game they have. So definitely there's definitely a bit of needle there, and there's going to be an extra biting criticism of Jofra if he doesn't deliver 24/7. I do believe
this was a conversation that I wanted to speak to you about, Machel. I sent you a message about this as well. As Change of Pace, we're completely Pakistani team, and we broadcast out of the UAE. So obviously our interaction is truly, entirely through cricket and through pop culture and through what we see on the internet. And we saw the BLM movement take center stage in world politics and sport as well, what we saw in the Premiership. So we did an episode on it. We did a podcast on it. Tasneem did a wonderful piece for us on it as well. And it made, but we spoke about it from a very South Asian perspective. And because that's the need, that was the need for us to address. But then I kept reading on about it, and especially in cricket, we saw what Michael Carberry had to come out and say, and then exactly what we've talked about with Jofra Archer. What is your analysis of the BLM movement in terms of cricket, especially in England? Because you're in that country right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Okay, in the cricketing context, so actually let's start with Sammy, because did you talk about Sammy?
Yeah, of course.
We did. Of course.
Right. So let's just. I won't go in depth into that, but I'll use that as a start point. So, Darren Sammy and Chris Gale, in particular, were two of the most famous West Indies cricketers to speak out and say, "Yeah, this is prevalent in the game. Like, not even just saying Black Lives Matter, but using it as a conduit to say, well, let's now put a lens on. Let's put the magnifying glass over cricket and let's talk some stuff."
Yeah.
England is a weird one for me, because it's been spoken about a lot this week. Actually, lots of articles written about it. Lots of English cricketers like Carberry, Ebony Rainford as well, talking about their experiences of feeling alienated due to race whilst playing cricket in this country. There's virtually zero black cricketers, professional British-born black cricketers, in England. And there has to be a reason for that. Now, I'm not going to be glib and say, it's all down to racism and therefore that's why we must say Black Lives Matter. But what the Black Lives Matter movement does is it should be forcing everybody to look at their immediate surroundings and say, have we not taken things into consideration? And I would say that where you can't see, and I'm talking, this is again in the context of English cricket, where you can't see black ethnic minority faces in your immediate professional circles, you have to ask yourself why. You can't shy away from it. You can't pretend that, well, it's just the way it is. No, there will be reasons for that. There will be systemic reasons for why that is not the case. And you have this movement that we're currently experiencing and is being amplified, rightly so, is forcing people to either address it. Well, it's showing where people stand, actually. Yeah. So it's showing whether people basically just want to do some lip service and put up a hashtag, whether they really and truly want to address it, or whether actually it highlights that they don't see the privilege and they think that there's nothing wrong. Either way, it's forcing everybody to.
Well, a lot of people in England seem to be upset with just lip service. We saw recently with the new West Indies Test cricket jersey, where they had the BLM logo on it, and BBC posted about it, and I saw the replies on Twitter.
Yeah,
I know I don't want to judge an entire country off of like a handful of Twitter replies, but they weren't great to read, to be honest. It wasn't a good depiction of what England should be.
It's wild, because Black Lives Matter. I'm sure there's been clips about this, but I'll repeat it. Black Lives Matter isn't a controversial statement. It's really not. Like when you literally break the statement down, it's just saying Black Lives Matter. Like when anybody tries to present some really coherent argument against it, you have to really question what is the issue here. What is the issue that you can't accept that and you see that as something inherently dangerous?
Offensive, yeah.
But I think wider than that, and again, this I don't think is specific to England. Well, it's not. Well, it's specific to England, but England aren't the only country within the context of world cricket. There is a deeper lying colonial issue with cricket that, to me, has never been addressed. Yeah. And this would be a good moment in time for people to actually address the colonial issues as well. And that's why I'm saying I don't think you can just break that down in terms of English cricket. I think there's a colonial mindset across world cricket that hampers the attitudes that some countries have towards other countries. I won't go any further. I'll just leave it like that for now. In the context of world cricket, and I think that's damaging. And I think we need to address those particular issues as well.
No, I think these are the conclusions that are quite similar to what we came to as well. It's an opportunity for us to address the elephant in the room and say this is happening. It was happening right. It's happening in our media in Pakistan as well. It's happening in the English media. If we don't have it now, I don't know when we can have this conversation again, because oftentimes these movements will not amount to much and then get swept under the rug and things go back to normal. But this is an opportunity for actual procedural change, and we hope we're able to see that. But do you want to add anything to the?
I was just going to add something slightly. Actually, I was just thinking, should I add it or not?
No,
so I had a conversation. Was it today or was it yesterday? Can't remember. But actually, one of the things that we could I don't know if it comes across though where you are, or if you pick that up when you're listening. I don't know, when you're watching test matches around the world, what language feed are you picking it up in?
English.
Does it depend? Okay, right, fine. So I think even as something, and this might sound really, you might say this is minor, but actually I think we also need to address the way in which we talk about other countries in cricketing, commentary, and so like Pakistan. Let's take Pakistan. Let's not even just make it specific about West Indies.
Mercurial,
yes,
unpredictable.
But that doesn't.
Tag.
And it doesn't. Things like that might sound to someone listening to this who isn't from an ethnic minority, be like, "What's wrong with that?" But though that language is, I've got issues with all of that. Like, why are Pakistan always mercurial? Why are West Indies always flamboyant? It's never
flair.
Yeah, it's never about the technical skill that the player has.
It's never cerebral or planned or something. It's something in the stars. Haley's comet went by and he took a hat trick. Or won a series.
This really upsets me. I've voiced this before on the show as well, because we're like, a lot of times Pakistan are not mercurial. We either consistently good or consistently bad. So. I mean, especially, I know Azhar is in bad form right now, but when he was doing well, and when he got that 300 against the West Indies, actually, the day 9 test match, and people were like, oh, it's so like mercurial, it's so out of the blue. No, it's not. These guys are consistently top-notch run scorers. So I'm not appreciative of that tag, and I completely agree with this. And hopefully, diversity in commentary will address that issue as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I just wanted to raise that as well.
Yeah. All right.
Machel, I have two pretty broad questions for you, but we're really going to put you on the spot right now. The first one is, of course, your expectations for the series. Okay, it might be a bridge too far to expect the West Indies to win, but what are you looking for in the series? And the second one, it's a bit of I'm sure you've been asked this a lot of time, a very cliched question, but the future of the cricket in the West Indies, in the Caribbean region itself, do you think, as an outsider, like we've always been fans of West Indian cricketers, Brian Lara, Curtly Ambrose, Courtney Walsh, Richie Richardson with those hard square cuts. All those legends of the past, the maroon hat. Is there been a downfall in the interest, in the zeal for cricket, with the NBA and the American sports really taking the athlete of color to a next level in terms of earnings and exposure? Do you think there's been a significant downturn in the interest in cricket, or is the passion and the fire still there in the Caribbean for the game?
I'll deal with the second one first and then come to the series. So there has been a downturn in terms of fan interest. So not a downturn in terms of people playing cricket, because there's cricket squares all over the Caribbean. Youngsters still play cricket. You still play wind ball and get your bat and whatever. That you could go in any of the Caribbean islands and you're going to see youngsters playing cricket on the streets, whatever it might be. So that's not the issue. The population, the Caribbean population's interest in cricket is an issue. But then that's not because...
That's directly proportional to the results, I'm sure.
Yes, and that's my belief. I think that the decline in watching the West Indies is because we're just not very good.
Yeah.
So nobody in any sport likes watching a losing team. Now, it just so happens for the West Indies that their decline has basically been 20 plus years. When you go from world dominance where nobody can beat you at all for 20 years.
I still remember that line in Fire and Babylon.
Yeah.
They didn't lose a series for 15 years. 15
Exactly.
years.
So
Michael Holding repeating that. Unbelievable.
So between 1975 and 1995, they lost 2 series only. I think New Zealand and India.
We'll be glad to win 2 series.
So since 1995, to put this in perspective, since 1995, West Indies haven't beaten any Test nation away from home other than the weak ones. So Zimbabwe, Afghanistan, Bangladesh when they were not very good.
Yeah.
So that's a massive decline. So when you see a champion brand and a champion team not win, you don't attend. It's simple as that. But the fire still burns. It's still there. You still want to see them do well. Yeah. But if you know they can't do well, you just don't go. What I would say, though, is this current side is the culmination of better... This current side is a culmination of investing in a group of players over the last 5 years.
It's a new cycle.
Basically. And they lost a lot, but now, because they've invested in them for 5 years, they now win occasionally, as opposed to just losing all the time. So people are slowly seeing something that they can get behind.
CPL has a hand to play too, because those stadiums are always well attended and completely packed.
Exactly. And what CPL has done is it's brought a new vibrancy to the Caribbean, and it's because they've invested in the youth.
It creates heroes and stars.
Yes. At a level, O'Shane Thomas wouldn't be where he is now if he didn't get the CPL contract. So CPL has helped bring through some youngsters as well.
Yeah.
So in terms of what that means for this series, we're still going to lose.
How badly though?
So last time we lost 2-1, obviously. I believe it or not, I would take a 3-0 defeat if every single test match was close. Because the last time we played, we won 1, but the other 2 were over in like 3 days. And we got absolutely annihilated. So in some ways, losing 3-0, but each of the test matches like going to 5 days would actually be better than that.
Yeah.
So I think we either lose 3-0 and it's close, or we lose 2-1 again and we somehow pull off.
I think you can sneak one in if you get like a wet, cold morning.
Yeah.
Speaking of wet, cold morning, what do you think the effect of you can't shine the ball anymore in England? What do you think that kind of effect will have on the series?
Based on the warm-up games that the West Indies have played, it doesn't seem to have had any impact. But I don't know if that's because we can't bat. So I can't actually tell you yet.
I thought we were going to bring on a West Indies fan onto the show.
He's very impartial. No, I just have one question, and I think, your criticism of the West Indies and their performances and everything is quite fair. The record speaks for itself. But isn't this one of the weakest England lineups in a long time? Because I feel over the last year and a half or so, because of the gaps that they've had in the top order. And I said this when they were going down to play the Ashes, the same thing, these Sibleys and Crawleys and Popes and stuff, they're just not there yet. I don't think they have a settled top order. I feel there's some cracks there that could be exploited. I don't think the West Indies batting right now is at that level. Jimmy can't stay fit, and everyone's coming back after a long hiatus. So I feel like that also kind of takes away some of the form and some of the things that usually build up into a long home summer that England has. I feel like their top order is frail.
I feel like there's some cracks there, and I feel like some of the players that were in form a couple of years ago, Bairstows and the likes, are out of the picture right now. So isn't there still a slight chance that
no home crowd
victory?
Yeah, so
and no home crowd. Yeah,
I actually agree, and I should have probably said that when I said 2-1. The one thing I will say, and I want actually this could play against Pakistan, but I'll get to afterwards. We are playing England off the back of no cricket, but the point is they've played no cricket either. And in many ways, and this will possibly help Pakistan when they do it, when you play games against your own squad, they're probably of greater intensity than playing a county side second 11 or whatever it might be. So in some senses, our preparation is better this time round than it would have been. Like essentially it's been an intensive 4-week camp. You would never get that normally to tour somewhere. So in some ways our preparation is better. And because England wouldn't be as they're not coming off the back of a county season. When you remove certain parameters, usually that favours the weaker side over the stronger side, if that makes sense. So in some senses, the playing field may well actually be levelled because of the lack of cricket, and that possibly, I think, plays into our hands. In terms of your point about the batsmen, yes, I think they've got a young, fledgling lineup. And the one thing that we can definitely do is we have a very good bowling attack. So they will come under scrutiny. And I think if West Indies can just put up one score in one of the test matches, bat first and put up a score, yes, I think that would actually put England under serious pressure. But just to bridge it to Pakistan, the only issue I would have as a Pakistani fan is by the time the Pakistan series comes about, England have had their cricket now. Now they're ready to play a team that has had no cricket. Do you see what I mean?
You should have gone. We're coming to the close of the show. There's a couple exercises I still want to get through. But before I do that, Khwaja, give me your prediction for the series, for the West Indies-England series.
I honestly feel that the Windies will sneak in a test win. They'll get a wet morning. They'll bowl first, and Shannon will rip through them, 3 for 30, and England are down to like 80
rip
for 5.
Through them 3 for 30.
In the first few overs. Then we have Alzari cleaning up. Jason Holder will do a rear guard action.
Or double again.
They can sneak in one win at least.
Emmett, what about you?
Yeah, I think they can nick one for sure. I feel like all these factors about the playing field being leveled, and there being a certain balance about, the lack of cricket that's been leading up to the series. I honestly feel England are generally blessed with the county season and a long summer that they usually have, ODIs and this and that. And most of these guys are in form. So I feel that will play in. And again,
the batting lineups are weak for both sides.
And no Joe Root in the first test. You never know.
The bowling lineups will decide the game. So I mean, if the Windies get the right kind of conditions, then
I'd pick the West Indian
victory.
I'd pick the West Indies bowling lineup over the English bowling lineup. I have to say, it's a lot more
very optimistic.
I don't know. I feel like they've got a lot more.
If Jofra wasn't there, then I'd pick them too. But Jofra,
Jofra. All right, Machel, thanks for coming on to the show. Now, there's a couple things I want to get through because this is a Pakistani show, and you are our first ever international guest. So my first question, one of the last questions of the day is, who is your favorite ever Pakistani player and why?
There's been so many though.
You've got to pick one.
One, just one.
Yeah. It could be, it doesn't have to be from the current side. It can be, anybody from amongst the greats, but you've got to tell us why.
No pressure.
Wow, man. That question is an amazing question because it makes you think just how many greats there've been. Okay, so I'm going to give an honourable shout out to, was it Yusuf Yohana? Is that what?
Mohammed Yusuf.
Mohammed Yusuf, sorry. Was it Yusuf Yohana before Mohammed Yusuf?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him an honourable shout out. I used to love watching him bat. But
he was good.
I think I have to go Wasim Akram. And the reason why is because
he's Wasim Akram.
Well, yeah, exactly. But do you know what? It's because growing up, I think when you think normally with sports stars, you think about who had an impact on you when you were younger. And when Pakistan used to tour England for the 5-match test series in the summer, watching him and Waqar in the 90s, supported by, who would have been a spinner? Mushtaq.
Mushtaq.
But Wasim's like Yorkers were something to behold.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't think I had seen a bowler like that. Not even a West Indian bowler. Like I know we had Walsh and Ambrose, but Wasim was different. And I remember just watching him, being almost excited as Pakistani seeing him bowl in the summer. So I'll go for him. I think he was amazing, absolutely amazing.
That's a pretty safe pick considering the people on the show. I think Wasim is a well liked player amongst the Pakistanis. He's a household brand. We've got 10 minutes left, and in these 10 minutes, the four of us now have to put together an all-time West Indian Pakistani 11.
Oh man,
that's easy.
Test.
Man,
it'll just be a couple of our guys and 9 of theirs.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute.
But for the test matches, it has to be a test match 11, right? None of that T20 stuff.
Only. Okay.
That's very easy.
I'll just pick up that lineup from the 80s. Yeah.
You say of all time.
All time.
I need to just get pen and paper. 1 second.
Okay, let's do this. I've got the notepad open.
So is it that we all get? Here. How are we doing it? We all get a pick, and
no,
then...
we can.
I think we'll crowd select it.
Yeah, we'll just crowd. Yeah, we're Patreon it. So let's do it.
So do I start off then?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to throw out there first and say, are we saying that there is any Pakistani opener that's better than Greenwich or Haynes?
Maybe Saeed Anwar or Hanif could be up there.
Yeah, true. I hadn't thought about that actually.
Gordon Greenwich has to be there. Gordon Greenwich is undisputed.
Let me put down.
We have to start with Greenwich and Haynes and then work out if we put a Pakistani opener there instead of those two. One of those two must be in the team.
Here.
He wasn't an opener.
Not to that level. He was one down there. Yeah.
I think Greenwich and Haynes, because even if individually they weren't, that, but as a pair, I don't think
as a partnership,
go wrong with that. Yeah.
All right, let's put them down. I feel like we're going to end up with like 10 West Indies players.
I'm telling you, it's going to just be the 1980s West Indies. Maybe not even
Wasim and a spinner probably. We can probably get, we might not even give the spinner with.
No, you've got to have Wasim and Waqar both have to be there.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Yeah. Not Waqar.
We had an entire
Marshalls
episode.
And Ambrose and Washes and
do you guys remember the entire episode we did on Waqar being one of the all-time great test bowlers? Have you forgotten that?
Yeah.
I mean, if we agree to leave him out, we leave him out.
You can barely look beyond the 4 horsemen, dude. Come on, man. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying. I don't even think a fast bowler from our side is going to make it.
Imran wouldn't make the team, man. Imran
exactly.
Wait, really? We say no.
Come on, Imran.
Wait, hold on. 6 even I'm defending Imran here. Hold on a minute.
He'd make the side as a bat. Would he make it ahead of Sobers as a batsman? No way.
Okay, good point. Hold on. Yes. Okay, so what are we saying? We got.
Let's go one down. Let's go one down.
We got Viv. We got BCL.
Viv, come on.
Of course.
Oh my. Do you know what? Does any Pakistani get in this team? Actually, seriously.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
Only Wasim.
No.
Only Wasim gets in.
I think.
I would say.
No. What about a spinner?
Who's batting it?
No, a Pakistani spinner gets in. If you're having a spinner, there will be. Which spinner would you?
Saklin might get in. Saklin.
Who's the best Pakistani spinner you think of? If you have to
pick
pick one,
maybe. Abdul Qadir might make it.
Abdul Qadir, I think test matches.
Qadir's numbers aren't that good, to be quite honest. But maybe he played in the 80s and stuff. But probably.
Let's work our way down. Who's your one down? Viv Richards.
Lara.
No debate.
Lara's one down. Okay.
Yeah.
Lara or Viv.
You want to Viv at 3 instead of 4?
Viv,
well, whichever one you put 3, the other one goes 4 for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Number 5.
Chanders, maybe, or we could put Gary Sobers at 5 and Imran at 6. That's the only solution. Maybe.
Who's keeping in this lineup then? Has to be Dujan, right?
Yeah, it has to be Jeff Dujan for sure. We don't have a keeper that's even.
We've never had a keeper. We had a guy who used to bat at number 10 and average 13, so it's not really.
Wait, so who did we have? Did we say Sobers and Imran 5 and 6? That we said.
I think that works.
I think that works. And we're gonna give Imran the captaincy.
Yeah, okay, I'll accept that. I'll accept that.
Fair enough. or we could have the big cat himself, Clive Lloyd at 6.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Remove all the Pakistanis.
Guys, this is supposed to be a combined 11. At least put a couple of us in it.
They literally had the greatest team in the history of
organized big fans.
What are you going to debate about that? You want We want Virat Kohli has to be there. What do you want us to do, man?
No, we won't put Virat.
Well, okay, I'm going to, because it's so easy to throw in any number of West Indians, I'm going to defend putting in some Pakistani players. So I am allowing, and I actually believe Wasim should be one of the bowlers.
Of course, yeah.
So it now boils down to whether you want 2 West Indian fast bowlers plus Wasim and then
or 8
and a spinner, or do we have? Or do we have?
Why do we even need a spinner?
Yeah, do we even need a spinner? Forget spinner. Forget that.
Yeah.
So
we're seriously not going to have a single spinner. What if the tour? What if this team has to tour India?
Doesn't matter exactly.
Gary Sobers will bowl them out.
So Wasim, and then 3. Any 3.
Malcolm Machel.
Well, we've only got 7 on the list
Holding,
so far. You know.
Who else? Who was good with the old ball? Maybe Joel Garner.
Ambrose and who between Ambrose
yes,
and Wash?
Curtly Ambrose. That's it. With the old ball, he could,
So is Holding making the cut?
I'm not sure. I've got Ambrose in mind.
Well, I put both.
Oh, you've got Ambrose and Holding. So
let me.
We got force.
Nostalgia.
We don't need a spinner, I guess. We don't need a spinner.
I don't think the spinner makes it.
30 over per innings. 30 overs, 10 wickets, get on to go bat.
We got Malcolm Machel, we got Curtly
5 over
Ambrose,
spells.
we got Michael Holding, and we got Wasim. We're good to go.
And if you're putting
Let's roll.
Imran or Sobers in there, you've got two extra bowlers as well. So it's
yeah.
So let me go through this for you guys if you guys want to make some changes, right? So Greenwich, Haynes, Viv Richards, Brian Lara at number 5, Sobers, number 6, Imran Khan. We don't have a wicket keeper.
Jeff Dujon, I think we said.
Okay, fine. So we'll put him at 7. Was that work?
Then Malcolm Machel at 8, he could bat. He has
he could, yeah.
That's 50.
Or even Waz.
Wasim can bat.
I put Wasim at
double 100, man.
Double 100.
Yeah.
Put some respect on that Bangladeshi innings. So we'll put.
Wasim's got double 100.
It was against Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe.
That was
massage. Again,
these Zoomers, I tell you, these Zoomers.
I swear. The 253, right? 263, I can't remember.
So we got Holding, and then we got Curtly Ambrose.
So Dujon at 7, Wasim Akram at 8, Malcolm Machel, number 9.
Yeah.
And then I've got 2 more slots left. So between Ambrose, Walsh, and Holding, one of them has to go.
It's Michael Holding and Curtly Ambrose. Done deal.
Yeah, I agree.
Curtly with that jiggle of the wrist, I can't forget that. That was like the staple of my 90s. That flick of the wrist, and then
I still copy that bowling action and the celebration.
and the pump, and the YouTube algorithm in its glory just threw up that England 47 all out just yesterday. I was just watching that. Unbelievable.
I have to say,
7 for 1.
This would make a pretty stat.
Have some Tetley, old chap. I still remember that sign. Unbelievable scenes, man.
But yeah, this side, I think it would take anybody in modern day cricket and probably anybody in the history of cricket. These are some of the best players we've ever seen.
This would take anybody in lacrosse, in ice hockey, in rugby, in NBA.
Basketball, football, you name it.
You name it.
Yeah. Special side. I want to thank you again, Machel, for coming on. It's been a great show, very interesting, and we're looking forward to Test cricket finally returning. And I'm actually looking forward to the West Indies actually winning a Test match. I think I'm going to give them a little bit more than you have, and say that they'll do well.
Thank you very, very much for having me on, guys. It's been absolutely brilliant connecting with you. And because you've wished us well, I wished Pakistan well on their extended tour as well. I actually think you could win that one.
Soften them up for us.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna piggyback off of that. I think we've always got a chance in England, and if there's no
100.
Yeah,
100%.
But we will talk about that series in the next week's episode. Thank you so much for listening to this week's Change of Pace Live. Stay tuned and hope the West Indies do well.